Shalom everyone, Shavua Tov, and we are here in Parashat Behar, and in Israel. Outside Israel, it's this week, it's Parashat Emor. Next week, we're going to join back together. Okay, so Parashat Behar is a small parasha, but very special. Very special. And one of the most, why it's so special and so famous, it's very famous. If you talk about something, and then in Hebrew, and then your listener is saying you're talking nonsense. Whatever you're saying has nothing to do with the topic we're talking about. Then you use the expression Ma inyan shmita lehar Sinai. What's the connection between shmita and Har Sinai? Where is it taken from? This is the first words of Rashi on this parasha, which means the beginning of this parasha. We're talking about Leviticus chapter 25, verse 1. It's beginning, and it says, and God spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai, in Mount Sinai, Behar, Lo'al, Behar Sinai, saying, and here we have the whole parasha of Behar is dealing with the 7 years leaving the land untouched for the 7th year. Then after a cycle of 7 cycles of 7 years, we get to the 50th year, which is called Yovel, or in English, Jubilee. Okay? And most of the parasha is talking about that and how you deal with it and all the outcomes of this very weird regulation that turns the biblical economy something in between. You have a capitalistic game, but the game will be reordered because you're dealing the cards back every 50 years. So you get your cards back every 50 years, which means, what does it say? What does it mean? In the year of the Jubilee, your family is getting back all the lands it had in the beginning, which means basically you cannot really sell property. You can only lease it till the Jubilee. That's what the Torah is saying, which means no matter how much money you lose, dealing the cards, going back to basics every 50 years, which means you cannot become really poor, okay? And then there are many rules about supporting people that don't have money and to get them back on their feet, which means that the biblical economy is somehow capitalistic, somehow socialistic. There's something in between. It's a game that probably when we understand it, we will understand how to get economy back to order, in addition to all the values that we're talking about it that also are inside this parasha. And what are these values? So Rashi is asking why all the mitzvot have been given on Har Sinai. All the mitzvot. Why do you have to mention Mount Sinai when you mention the mitzvah of the sabbatical year and the Jubilee? Why? And especially that those mitzvot, you cannot observe these mitzvot in the Sinai or anywhere outside in Israel, only in Israel. So what's the message? Where is if the Torah is eternal and for everyone, so if you don't live in Israel, so we can skip this parasha, right? So even this week, outside Israel, you read Emor, right? And next week you read Behar Bechukotai, so you can skip Behar and go just into Bechukotai. What's the message? It must be an eternal message. And always the Zohar will give you this message. So the basic is, again, the rules, the biblical rule for Israel is everybody gets his land as the families of the 12 tribes inherited the land. Joshua made sure that every family will get its own piece of land except from the Levites. Okay? Because that's why they were the teachers, they were everything is connected to teaching, writing Torahs, whatever. The Levites were doing all the holy stuff, while the rest of the people each family had its own piece of land, and on the 7th year of every cycle, There was a seventh year, and the seventh year you do not, says the Torah, you cannot work the ground. You cannot do anything about the ground. You cannot till the ground, dig in the ground. Anything of agriculture you cannot do on the seventh year. Not just this, if you have, let's say, an orchard of, let's say, any kind of fruit, let's say figs, okay? Now, the seventh year, everybody can come in and pick your fruits. That's my fruit. No, no. God says it's mine. I just gave it to you for 6 years. On the seventh year, just to remind you, it's all mine. Everybody can pick it up because basically it's mine. You know, I always like this story. There's an ancient story says about two farmers were tilling the ground of their fields, and they came to a border dispute. And they were arguing and arguing and arguing. And then an old man passed by. And they asked him, maybe you can mediate between us. He says that this is my land. And he said this is his land. And he gives, this is the sign we planted over a tree. This is after everybody was arguing in front of him. The old man says to the farmers, did you ask the land? And he said, oh. And they said, no, we didn't even think about it. What, can anybody ask the land? Would the land answer you? He says, I can try. So the old man kneeled down to the ground and he asked a question, he spoke to the land, put his ear, and he got up and he said, so what the land told you? And he said, I asked the land, who do you belong to? And the land answered me, they both belong to me. Which means you guys, you're fighting with each other. You're going to find yourself down under, right? You both belong to here. So some proportions when you're fighting about something, it's not going to be yours. And that's what the whole thing about the Jubilee is. There's something about it. You cannot really own land because, owning means it's yours forever. You're going to be dead soon. How can you think of owning anything? Okay, even your body is on a lease. Not to talk about the land. Your body is on a lease. You get it, and you should have, you should treat it carefully because everything, you get a car on a lease or any machine on a lease, you should have just the minimum, how do you call it, wear and tear. More than that, you have to pay for it. Same thing, you got your body on a lease, minimum wear and tear, that's considerable. More than that, you're going to pay for it, for sure. And the Torah is full with that, but that's not the issue. Our issue is about what is the connection between Mount Sinai and the Shemitah. This is our issue. This is the question. That's why Rashi is studying that. Ma inyan Shemitah le'Har Sinai. What's the connection to Mount Sinai and the Shemitah? So the first thing, it's very simple. Very simple. We are now in the counting of the Omer. And it's very similar. You're counting 7 weeks before you come to Mount Sinai Revelation. And the Mount Sinai Revelation is the Jubilee. It's a small Jubilee because it's the 50th day coming out of Egypt. Okay? So that's really clear. And what was on Mount Sinai on the 50th day? The most important thing that Rav Ashlag talks about it again and again and again. Freedom. Freedom on the tablets, Parashat Ki Tisa. Freedom on the tablets. Freedom from what? So Rav Ashlag is bringing all the quotations from the Talmud and from the Zohar and from other places. Freedom, real freedom, is freedom from the angel of death. That's real freedom. We acquired that on Mount Sinai. However, we lost it on the golden calf, the story of the golden calf. Still, because energy, there's a law of preservation of energy, this energy stays somewhere packaged in what? On the 50th day of the counting of the Omer. Therefore, it says in the Zohar, in the introduction to the Zohar, it says that when it speaks about the Leila de Kala, it's on you have the very, very powerful explanation to what Shavuot is about, the night of Shavuot, and it speaks about, it's called the night of the bride. That's a Zohar the Sulam commentary, verse 125. And in the end of it, it says that Rabbi Shimon is saying, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, if you really do the counting of the Omer properly, and if you're awake the whole night and you study the whole night, then it is guaranteed that you're not going to die that year, and no damage can happen to you. What a promise. This is really a great promise, right? So, if you touch the Jubilee properly, death will not touch you. This is a very powerful explanation about freedom. Now, so how is that connected to our parasha? How is that connected to the 50th year, the Jubilee in the first place? Okay, so the Zohar will explain it to us. Okay, but bear with me, there is a kind of a long explanation how to deal with this. I'm reading now the Zohar of Parashat Behar in the Sulam. Okay, and the Zohar is starting with the first verse, as usual, and then it says, Ki tavo el haaretz, when you come to the land. That's basically how the Torah starts, as you come to the holy promised land, and then each one is going to be given his own piece of land. It's yours. What I mean it's yours? It's God's, but God is giving it to your family. You can't give it outside the family, because if you're selling it, you're not really selling it. The Torah is saying you're basically leasing it till the year of the Jubilee, which means if the cycle is on this, let's say, 30th year, so you're selling it for the next 19 years. So you're basically not selling, you're leasing for a limited time. Even today in Israel, right, most of the land belongs to JNF or to the Minhal Mekarkei Israel, and you're basically leasing it for 49 years or 99 years. Because why? It's the same rule. The land does not belong to people, it belongs to the Creator. Okay, so coming back to it. But what's in it for us? So the Zohar continues. So Rabbi Elazar brings another verse. He brings this verse from Leviticus chapter 6, and he talks about the Olah, Korban Olah. There's a Korban, there's an offering, which is called Olah. Olah means ascending. What I mean ascending? This Korban was offered in the evening, and it was burned the whole night. Everything went up in smoke to the heavens. Nothing was left behind. Some of the Korbanot, you sacrifice it, but basically you ate the food. Okay, here nothing was left on earth, everything ascended up. So he said, so why Rabbi Elazar is bringing that? And he's saying that Olah, she Olah u'mitchaberet b'melech hakadosh b'zivug shalem. Translation. This is the kind of offering that is totally going up to the heavens, connecting to the King, which means the King of the universe. What does it mean? So we have to mention again, when we say Korban, some people call it sacrifice, and the people who call it sacrifice, they are the people that later become victims. When you sacrifice for your children, for your career, and you just telling yourself how much I sacrificed, then you become a victim, because you are coming from the wrong point. You're coming from the loser point, which means I have to sacrifice. What does it mean? I had so much time, energy, whatever, money, and I sacrificed it. Okay? The moment you sacrifice, it means that moment when you are giving, you're already regretting your giving. You're not giving with full-hearted. That's a victim consciousness. You already think that you're being cheated. So, if you're really, really into business, you don't like to work with people like this. Why? Because if you're sensitive, there's no blessing, there's no bliss in dealing with people like this. Because when they give you the product or the service, they're not there. They're already feeling that you cheated them. So they don't give their heart. And basically, when you get a product or a service, it's not about the product or the service, it's about the energy. And if the person is not giving you that energy with full heart, there's no blessing, there's no bracha, there's no continuation. It does not belong to the holy system. And how you define the holy system, the kedusha? Rav Ashlag says there is hemshechiyut, continuation, which means the more you do, the more you get. The more you work, the more results you get. And in the system of tum'ah, the impure system, the more you work, the more highs you get, the more buys you get, right? The more lucky you become, the more blows you get. Okay, so it's like light and darkness, no fruits. What I mean fruits, no continuation. You can have some joy here and there, it doesn't go anywhere. Doesn't go anywhere. Okay? And that is very important to understand. So only in Olah you have a blessing because you are ascending. At that moment, as the Zohar says, this is korban, not from sacrifice, but from getting closer. So again, let's remind again the last parashah. When we are talking last parashah, before parashah, in Kedoshim and Emor, that giving to others, it's not sacrificing, because you're not doing it for other people to reciprocate. You're doing it because that's the way you ascend to God. And why should I ascend to God? Because I want God's energy in whatever I do. I don't want your energy. I don't want your energy. I want God's energy, right? And people's energy have a limit. They're limited. We are limited creatures. I want to connect to the unlimited, right? You open a company. What does it say on the name of the company? Limited, LTD, right? Limited. You're already limited. Okay, I want to connect to unlimited, right? You want to connect to unlimited. And unlimited means only when you have a value that is higher than immediate gains. That's scientific already. When 2018, we already know it works this way. Okay? There's a continuation. Companies, groups of people that work with that concept, they're more successful for the long run, they make more money, and they don't go through the erosion that most people go in business. What erosion? The more you work, the more tired you become, you start to give up, and when you give up, Rav Ashlag says, giving up, this is old age. And old age is a criminal offense, death sentenced. Okay? We're not talking about the age, we're talking about attitude. Nah, it's not going to work. Oh, people already tried it. No, that's happening when you are a victim. But when you are doing Olah, when you're getting closer to God all the time, the more effort you invest with other people, the more excited you are about life because you're closer to the Creator. And then you have more incentive to work harder. And you're more excited about stuff. Okay? So then the Zohar goes into a weird discourse about the night. It says that at night, there's witchcraft, there's darkness, there's negativity, there's all kinds of horrible stuff you don't want even to hear about it before you go to sleep, because there's some people who can't fall asleep because of the fear. Okay, so why the Zohar is bringing that? And the answer is that when we talk, also we had a presentation for that in Parashat Emor that said, when the universe was created, it says, and God said, let there be light. At the end of that part, it says, and there was an evening and there was a day, one day, right? And the Zohar explains, every person's life has ups and downs. The evenings, the nighttime is the downs. The morning, the days, the light time is the ups. But if you're really spiritual, it's one day. Because you know, when is it you really grow and stretch and get out of the box? When it's nighttime, when it's tough, when it's painful, when it's not convenient, when you're out of your comfort zone. And so you grow. So there's no night, there's no darkness, it's only a perception. Because even during the darkness, and as I said many times, even when it's a pitch dark night, the skies of that night are full of light. How do you know? Look at the moon. When there's something that reflects that light, there is light. So the darkness is only our illusion because the universe is full of endless light all the time. Darkness is just because we are just not reflecting it properly. So then we have an illusion of a night. How do I overcome that illusion? How do I overcome this illusion? This is our job as human beings in order to create the effort. And that we spoke about it, Parashat Emor also. We see it's connected to this parasha. When we speak about Aaron, that it says that his actions brought him up to that place that God had no other choice but to choose him for the high priest. Why? Nobody worked so hard to become that creature of light and mediation and love and unity and so on like Aaron. So when it was a time to choose a Kohen, there was no choice. Like Aaron put God into like, okay, we'll choose you. Okay, right? So the Zohar says his action raised him up to the occasion. He'eluhu lazeh. Again, the shoresh, the word is ola, la'alot, to ascend. Okay? So why is this introduction? So it says that the korban olah, the offering of the olah that was offered at night, was total ascension to heaven. Nothing was left. Nothing was left behind. So it says, Al mokdal mizbeach kol halayla. The olah offering was on the fire the whole night long. Okay, till the morning. Ad boker. Why? Because in the morning, no judgment anymore. On when dawn comes in, that's the energy of that the positive overcomes the negative, and that's why there's light. And some people think, no, the morning is beautiful and positive because there's light. No, because it's positive energy, therefore there's light. Okay, some people think I'm crazy, but that's how you think when learning Kabbalah. First is the energy, then comes a physical manifestation. Same thing as my Rabbi used to see. You see that? I don't think that anybody thinks that my finger is moving on its own, right? Huh? But who moves the finger? My thought. Did anybody see my thought? No? So when you see the finger moving is already after the thought was there in the mind. The same thing in this world. When you see something physical, it's already when the thought already existed, but you can't see that level. Okay, but you know it's there. You know it's there. So everything you see is already a result of something you cannot see in the world that is beyond the five senses. Okay, so coming to that, says, Bore, come and see. I'm reading on verse 5 in Parashat Emor in the Sulam, Parashat Behar. כיוון שנכנסו ישראל לארץ, since the Israelites entered the land, לא נמצאו בדינים תחתונים. There were no lower judgment in that land. Okay? וכנסת ישראל שהיא המלכות, and the gathering of Israel, which is ספירת מלכות, the שכינה, הייתה בנחת על כנפי הכרובים, resting peacefully on the wings of the cherubim. What an expression. Why? It has rest for everything and from everything. That's the word nachat. Nachat, means when you fulfillment, basically. For menucha and fulfillment. When do you really have menucha? When do you really have real rest? When you fulfill. Okay, that will return. That concept. כי ישראל לא ישנו עד שהקריבו הקורבן לבין הארבעים ונסתלקו הדינים. The Israelites did not go to sleep before they brought the offering of the olah, and the power of the offering was to quiet down all judgments all around the country. So there were no judgments that night. And that means that when the temple was working properly, there was no real judgment. People felt kind of cushioned with holiness around them. So even when they fell, they knew it's letova, it's for the good. That was the power of that korban, that offering. Okay? ולא נמצא אלא אישה בבעלה. And you could only find, and then is an expression again that is very important to understand Kabbalistically, a woman united with a husband. Because a woman united with a husband is expression that the heaven are united with the earth, that the female power of the creation, which is the creation itself, is united with a male, which is the creator. When there is a union, there is a fulfillment, there is a secretary, and then there is what? Rest. Rest. When you how do you know? My rabbi used to ask, how do you know you really achieved connection? And he says very simple: when you feel quietness, when there's no noise anymore, when there's real rest, then you know that you really had a connection. If you're still experiencing a lot of inner noise, you're not plugged in. Go and look for the plug because you're not plugged in. Okay? So go on looking for the plug. Now, so now when it says, Ki tavo el haaretz, and there's a game of words over here. Ki tavo el haaretz means, literally, simply, when you come to the land. But Ki tavo el, it's also there's another hidden message. Tavo el means like a man comes to his wife, which means unity between a husband and wife. When you have that unity, then the earth should have its rest. Okay? And the earth is a symbol of our reality. Okay? Now, so now when we understand that, we can go on with the Zohar. So the whole purpose of the Shemitah is about the rest. And then the Zohar continues, because there's stuff that I'm skipping because we don't have so much time. Verse 7 in the Zohar. Boe. Hey, the letter Hey, Hi menucha shel ha'elyonim v'tachtonim, is the rest of the worlds above and below. משום זה יש ה' עליונה דהוויה שהיא בינה וה' תחתונה דהוויה של מלכות. In the Tetragrammaton, there are two H's. The upper Hey is connected to Sfirat Bina, and Sfirat Bina is also called the Jubilee. It's the 50th gate. The lower Hey is called Sfirat Malchut. Sfirat Malchut is number 7. It's always number 7. Why? You have 6 of Zerapin, Malchut is the 7th. So when you have 7 years of Shemitah, and then you have the 50th year of Jubilee, you're basically connecting to both Heys, the upper Hey and the lower Hey. Okay? Now, whenever you finish and complete a cycle, there is a way to reconnect to Menucha, real rest. And I'll explain. Perush. So Rav Ashlag adds, and he says, Hamochin, listen carefully, Hamochin de'arat chokhmah mevi'im menucha. The brains of the illumination of chokhmah, they bring menucha, rest. What does mean mochin? Mochin, in Hebrew, the word moach is brain. What is mochin? Brains. Okay. You say about somebody, he has the brains, and now he doesn't have the brains. I promise you that if you measure the weight of these people's 2 brains, they weigh probably the same. The average is more than 1.25 kilos, right? Of a brain. Why you say about that brain, right? And you say this guy, his brain is hollow. He has the brain, it's not hollow. Why you say brain? Because it's not just the physics, it's not just the hardware, it's also about the software. Now, the brains we are talking about, this is the software, this is the ability of a person to communicate with the upper world, with the real world, with the spiritual world. When you have these brains, when you have that ability or that software, that you acquire it by studying. Why studying? Because the studying of the Torah, it says, Etz Chaim Hi Lamachzikim Ba. The ones who are holding on to it, it's the tree of life for them, which means the Torah is basically training your subconscious to create what is called mochin. When you have the mochin, the consciousness that allows you to tap into the spiritual world, then the illumination that is the result, the illumination you experience, gives you menucha. Real rest cannot come from anything but that. Okay? So when can you get that? So we, going back to the previous parashah, the previous parashah spoke about kedusha, holiness. And kedusha means holy with the WH. What does it mean? When a person is committed to the state of mind of being there for others, not because it's nice. Animals also help each other, right? Animals also. If you had a dog, they're there for you. They love you unconditionally. That's why a lot of people prefer to have a dog than a spouse, right? Because a spouse, you can always forget about you, and they have on their agenda, and the dog not. But what can you do? A dog is not a spouse. Humans have a hidden agenda. They want to be connected. And the question is, how can you be connected? So if you if you belong to our generation and our day and age, you're brainwashed that your connection is by working hard, getting a lot of money, buying a lot of toys, a lot of stuff, and that will make you connected. How do you know it's a fake? Because the more you have, the less rest you have, right? The more you have on the physical level, even on the not just physical, respect, fame. I met a lot of people that had a lot of money. They were very famous. And most of them, I'm saying most because it was 99.99%, were neurotic, were psychotic. And you look at them and you say, what a shame. Being so close or being so far. And there's nothing can help them. Only when you start committing yourself to the rules that we are talking about, then you acquire those brains, which is not the physical brain. We're talking about the software. That's what studying Torah, reading the Zohar, it's all about acquiring the software that allows you to reach mochin the chokhmah. What is mochin the chokhmah? It's the ability to achieve an enlightenment. And when you have a real enlightenment, that gives you menucha, real rest. Because if you just, you buy something really expensive, then you get a high and then a buy, right? It goes away. It's not everlasting, very short-lived. Same thing with alcohol, same thing with drugs, same thing with all the likes of it. Okay? Although research is showing that what really brings you to spirituality or to fulfillment or to happiness is more your community involvement. What does it mean? Commitment to be there unconditionally for other people as a value. That gets you the closest to happiness as possible, to real menucha. And that's what we study. Because the moment you have a commitment that is unconditional by other people's behavior, there's some people, they help everybody there. He goes, why are you doing it? They're not going to say thank you. So, I don't know. Oh, this guy's addicted. This guy's addicted. Yes. But that's the proper addiction. It's not an addiction. That's a life goal. That's a life goal that has fruits. Because you can't explain to a selfish person how come you're so happy when you're giving so much to others. Women can understand it better. That's why women, we say they have an easier tikkun. Raising a family and a husband, usually in that order, right, is always being there committed without any kind of, without any compromises. Well, men usually it's like, I don't feel comfortable, I'm not ready. It's like, it's much harder, if you notice, for men to get to that idea. Okay? So that's why it's easier for women to tap to higher places. And that's why it says, Da'atan shenashim kala. Women, you can read it as their mind is light, or as Rabbi Ezekiel is saying, they connect easier to that. That is that brains of communication to the upper world. Okay, so now, when we understand that, we understand that the light, so says the Zohar, כשמסתכלים בדברים הכל אחד, so we look at these things, it's all one. כי המוחין דיובל שהיא בינה, the brains, which is the software of connecting to Bina, which is the Jubilee, okay? מאירים בשמיטה שמלכות, they shine also in the Shemitah, which is the seventh year. What does that remind us? Shabbat. Same thing. What is Shabbat? Shabbat is the seventh day. What happens to Shabbat? How do you call Shabbat? Shabbat Kodesh, right? Why Shabbat Kodesh? The holy Shabbat. You don't just say Shabbat, Shabbat Kodesh. The holy Shabbat. Why the holy Shabbat? Because Shabbat is holy. Sunday, Monday, whatever, they're not holy. In Shabbat, there is that light of holiness that if you learn how to tap into it, you're in a different realm. You're in the realm of what is called also Shabbat Menucha. Shabbat of rest. And what did we say? The only way achieving rest is by being enlightened by the light of the above. So all of this that we read also in the end of Emor about all the Chagim, how they are called Mikra'ei Kodesh. The Torah calls them summoning the holiness, inviting, summoning the holiness. All of these tools that the Torah is giving us, like the holidays, holy days, like the Shabbat, the holy Shabbat, like the Shemitah, like the Yovel, all of them about means for a person to skip, like quantum leap, to leap above the box, outside the box, and to connect to a world where the light is available. Now, this is too thinking. It's illogical. Whatever we learn about the Torah is illogical. Shabbat is totally illogical. You know, but you go to, yeshivot, Jewish religious academies, and you see in some of them, you really feel Shabbat. People are really flying high. And some of them, you don't feel Shabbat at all. Why? Because some of them, people are just connected to what you're not allowed to do. That's logical. That the law. It's when you focus only on what you're not allowed to do, and you focus about what you have to do, and you're so into creating the box, you're just creating boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes. Then there's no place for the holiness to come in. You don't feel Shabbat. No feeling of Shabbat. You don't feel. How can you feel Shabbat? A lot of people swear they can feel Shabbat. They can't explain it, but you know what? Can you explain love? Can you explain happiness? You don't have to. Can you explain Shabbat? You don't have to. Okay? It's another world. Me'ein olam haba. What does it mean? It's like the world to come. Shabbat is a different zone. Shabbat zone. Yeah, but people a lot of people on Shabbat, there's no Shabbat. Because they're connected, we said, to Shabtai. That's why it's called in English Saturday, Saturn day. And what is Shabtai? Shabtai is a Shabbat. No Shabbat. So you have two frequencies on Shabbat. Saturday. These are the people that are working and blah, 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 do whatever they do, nothing to do with Shabbat. They're on the physical, materialistic level, and they can't experience Shabbat. Those are the people that think that on Shabbat, they can make more money, for instance, or they take a vacation and go to the beach, whatever. And also the Zohar says, these are the people that wear black on Shabbat and are so busy with what you're not allowed to do. So they have no communication whatsoever with the lights of Shabbat, so they cannot have menucha on Shabbat, because the only way to achieve menucha, nachat, fulfillment, and real rest is by the lights of Binah. And Shabbat is a place to get the lights of Bina. But for that, you have to train your brain, to train your brain and train your brain to connect to the mystical, to the supernatural, to the out of the box. And that's what the Rabbi is saying. When you study Torah, when you read the Zohar, when you do the mitzvot, you have to concentrate that whatever you're doing a metaphysical, non-physical action. Yes, you do a physical action, but the whole thing is about awakening and summoning Mikrai to call in the holiness. Something that is not visible, something that is not physical, something that is only lights. You have to train your mind to do that. Because our brains, in our modern society, you're always being trained. If I don't see it, I don't believe it, right? So my rabbi used to say, what about the guys in Missouri? I'm from Missouri, it's a show me state. They don't have hope. Can you see hope? Can you show somebody hope? Can you measure it? How many kilos or pounds is your hope? No. So in Missouri, there's no hope? Of course there's hope. Miserable are the people. If I don't see it, it doesn't exist. So the old Jewish joke about, the Soviet Union, when it was established, the communists created a special schooling system for Jews to train them to become. So the teacher was teaching one of these classes. Look, you see that? It's existing. You don't see it? It doesn't exist. Realism. Communism was about realism. If you don't see it, it doesn't exist. Then Moishele got up and he said to the class, do you see the teacher's brains? Everybody said, no. He said, so it doesn't exist. Okay? So it's like you're trying to be realistic and logical, can get out of it. We're not about Shabbat is not logical. But what is the secret of it? What we said in the beginning, Ma inyan Shmita lehar Sinai. What's the connection between Shmita and Mount Sinai? Mount Sinai is always about enlightenment. It's very simple. Whoever studies about it. The name of the parasha is the mount, right? Behar. What is the Gematria of Behar? Bet is 2. He is 5. Reish is 200. 207. 207 is Or, light. And we spoke about it. That light is the source of all what is really good. That light is what the Arizal is saying. Anytime you're performing a mitzvah and you love others as you love yourself, that Arizal is saying this is the highest mitzvah. This is the highest mitzvah. So when you love others, you don't love them because you want them to be nice to you, which is okay, but that's not the goal. You love them because by that you are sent to connect. That's an olah. That's an olah offering. By loving other people, and by the way, I tried it. Hating is not fun. Loving is a lot of fun, right? So why should I voluntarily hate somebody? That's very not fun. And you continue hating for a long time, then your muscles start to deteriorate. This is very not comfortable having your muscles deteriorating. So hating is not really good for your health. Okay? That's horrible. Very high cholesterol. Hatred and high cholesterol, the dangerous cholesterol. Why? Why doing that? It's not fun. Why somebody will be bothering himself, occupy himself with hatred? Again, my rabbi used to say, somebody came to him and said, why are you hating me? And the rabbi looked at him like with shock. It's like, I don't have time to hate you. Are you crazy? I'm working so hard to love because that's how I connect to the light. So, wasting time on hating you? Are you crazy? I don't want to commit suicide. If you're really in that consciousness, there's no way you're going to hate. And we're humans. Somebody hurt you. You hate them for a split second. Say, well, I'm crazy. Akol letova, everything for the good. There's no night, there's only day. I just have to turn the night and the day into one. Okay, I'm overcome. I overcame, I'm okay. I'm back to myself. That's how you get the enlightenment. because your emotions are not dependent on other people's actions. That's called freedom. So that's why on Har Sinai, what's the connection with Behar Sinai? On one hand, this is the enlightenment, Behar Sinai. On the other hand, how do you call that seventh year? Shemitah. How do you translate simply the word Shemitah? If you know Hebrew, let go. I'm holding a cup. Letting go of that cup in Hebrew means the verb is lishmot, right? Lishmot, to let go, let it fall. Lishmot, and the noun is shmita. The action is shmita. So basically, you're coming to the seventh year, and you have to let go of whatever your brain, physical brain, is telling you. And here is, I think, the only time the Torah talks about it. And it says, it's amazing. And it also says, what if you say, okay, that's chapter 25, verse 20. וכי תאמרו מה נאכל בשנה השביעית. אין לא נזרע ולא נאסוף את תבואתנו. You're going to say, your logic is going to say, hello, please God, but you're working so hard to get by every day, especially if you're having a farmer, and you know that it's so hard. And now you tell me, on the seventh year, just let go. You don't plow the fields. You don't plant anything. You don't till the ground. You don't prepare the field for the next year. Leave the land alone. So I think, what am I going to eat? So the Torah says, you're going to say, what is it that we are going to eat? This is an illogical mitzvah. How can we live like this? We're not going to survive. And the Torah says, don't worry. וציוויתי את ברכתי לכם בשנה השישית, and I will order my blessing to you on the sixth year. ועשת את התבואה לשלוש שנים, and you'll get crops for 3 years. Why 3 years? One for the sixth year, one for the seventh year. What about the eighth year? Because in the eighth year, you're allowed to plant, but till you have crops, it's another year. What are you going to eat meanwhile? You'll get enough on the sixth year. Isn't that a leap of faith? That's exactly walking with the Torah means let go and let God. Whatever is logical cannot be real. Because real success is not logical. Real love is not logical because it's all about connecting to the light. Now, the physical logic does not see the light. And that's why I'm saying I never seen happy, selfish people. Because selfish is logic. Selfish, it means whatever I think is the right thing, I do. I don't care about anything else. I do it for my own interest. What a terrible conflict. It's an oxymoron. Why? You would think the more the person cares about himself, the more happy he would be because he's always busy about himself. So he's going to have what he wants. But reality shows the more you're busy with yourself, the less you have. How does that sound like? This is illogical. This is illogical. So the message of this parasha is very clear. You want to reach sustenance, longevity, viability, real life. It's not in the logical realm. It's not. What do you think about all those people who really created what mankind is called advancement? They were crazy. And Steve Jobs said the crazy people thought they're going to change the world. They did change the world. And their logic was not logical. They were crazy. Most of them were not spiritual. They paid a very heavy price. Like Steve Jobs, for instance. He died miserable, 57 years old. And he only on his deathbed realized that being mean, and being nasty and stepping on other people, the cost was too much. Too much. Why? Not just he died young, he was miserable most of the time. And that's doesn't worth it. Doesn't worth it. We're here to be happy. We're creatures of happiness. We're creatures of magic. We're creatures of beyond the five senses. And when we are being deprived of that, we'll be miserable. It's like a fish out of the water. And our problem, especially in our generation, that the deterrence, the disturbance is so heavy and so intense about so many people. They just out of it. I just read a poll today in the US, a Pew poll that said that most Americans, almost 100%, maybe they don't believe in the God of organized religion, but they believe there's a supreme force in the universe. And that says it all. The problem is the God of the religion is not the God they believe in. Because with today's, it's an evolutionary process. When you really want to believe in God, and deep inside, you can't believe that there's somebody vengeful sitting up in heaven and waiting to smite you because you made a mistake. You can't believe in a God like this. But if you go to religious places, this is the God they teach you about. Now you understand, because, as I say for many years, we live in a market economy. It's a market economy. People go to the house of worship. If they don't feel good and they don't feel God, they don't go again. Simply, they don't go. So, you see, the house of worship are usually empty, and people go looking somewhere else, on the beach, the gardens, trekking, whatever. They're trying to worship God in their way, but when you study Kabbalah, you feel like you came home, because finally somebody said it the way my heart knew it all the time. There is a God, but it's not their God. It's not the guy that's always busy telling me, you're not allowed, you're going to go to hell if you don't do that. And most people go to hell because most people don't do what we do. This is not God. This is an idol. They're trying to sell you. That's idol worshiping. That's the God of darkness, of anger, of punishment. This is not God. God is all loving. But that mankind has to learn. It's a process till we come home. But Behar, Shemitah, is about letting go and letting the real God, not the fake God, into our lives. And that's happiness, and that's a real menucha. What people travel so far away to find some rest, vacation. How do you say vacation in Hebrew? Chofesh. That's not chofesh. Chofesh is real freedom. Freedom is freedom from worries, freedom from anxieties. And that's what the Zohar says. Only the light of Chokhmah will give you that feel of freedom. And mankind is still looking for it. And I hope we found it. And we're working. It doesn't mean that we have it 24/7, but that's our job. Reading the Zohar. And that's why the big, great holiday of this week, Lag BaOmer, is about that message that came to earth, like on Mount Sinai. The message that with the power to allow us to reach that real freedom, the real freedom that is within. Thank you so much. Happy Lag BaOmer and have a great week. Kol Tov.